Welcome to episode 4 of the Cows Report, your insider's guide to the world of college sports leadership. I'm Will Reese, co-founder of Next Level Sports and proud Cows director since 2011. In this episode, Ryan Bradley sits down with Rice Athletics director Tommy McClelland for our big interview. Tommy shares his remarkable journey from becoming the youngest Division I athletic director in the country at just 26 years old to leading Rice Athletics after accepting the AD role in August of 2023. We'll also explore his recent experiences navigating head coaching searches for both basketball and football at Rice. Then, we'll step into the lobby for a timely and insightful discussion on navigating transition in college athletics today with Cows alumni, TCU Senior Deputy AD Ryan Peck, SMU Deputy AD Lauren Adee, and Nebraska Deputy AD Haven Fields. Their expertise and perspectives will provide actionable takeaways for all of us navigating this ever-changing landscape. Coming up next, Ryan Bradley and Tommy McClelland kick off episode 4 of the Cows Report, where the conversation continues long after the event ends.
Welcome into the Cows Report podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Bradley, and we have an outstanding program lined up for you again this month, starting with the big interview. Today's guest on the big interview is a longtime friend and supporter of Cows, the Vice President and Director of Athletics at Rice University, Tommy McClelland. Tommy, thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right. I want to get this conversation started by giving our listening audience a little bit of your background. You got an AD job very early in your career, 25 years old at McNeese State. And by the time you were in your early 30s, I know you were already an AD at an FBS institution, now the AD at Rice. Just walk us through your career journey, kind of how you got started in the industry and what ultimately led to the opportunity that you have today at Rice.
Yeah. You know, when I think back on the opportunity at McNeese, so I was at McNeese State. I went there. I had previously been an intern at the Southland Conference office, and I was looking for my first time kind of full-time employment job. And so, you know, like a lot of people at that point in their life, it was wide net. So wherever I could go get a job, wind up being at McNeese, which is in Southwest Louisiana, which is really where I grew up. And I thought, like most people, I'd take that job. It was an entry-level position, kind of overseeing external. I thought I would be there 3, 4, maybe 5 years. Then I'd go somewhere else, be an associate AD. Then, and I would work myself up to, at some point in my career, having the opportunity to be an AD at like a McNeese. And just kind of get my head down. The previous AD there, or the AD that I worked for, was named Sonny Watkins. He was a former women's basketball coach there, and was kind of the old model of the old coach, retired, became AD. And what he lacked in modernization, he had an incredible heart for student athletes, and he led with a great level of integrity. And so there were some foundational things there that I learned from him. It wasn't about being sophisticated on the external front or, modernizing the athletic department, but it was a core value thing. 9 months into that experience, he announces his retirement. And like many coaches in my life, he encouraged me to think beyond my current set of circumstances. So I probably would not have applied for the job on my own, but he encouraged me. You told me you wanted to be an AD. I don't know if they'll interview anyone else in this department. You should do it. And so, again, like a coach would do, he inspired me to say, you know what, I'm going to do it. And so I went home and wrote out my 1-page resume on 28 font, making up big words so I could get, a big sheet of achievements, and applied. And ultimately, Dr. Robert Hebert, who had been there a long time, I benefited from a very mature and seasoned president who was comfortable at the end, maybe making a tough decision. They named me interim for a year, and then I wound up having that interim tag taken off, and served at McNeese for that's really about 7 years total, about six and a half as the AD. And then I had an opportunity, a more traditional way, to become the athletic director at Louisiana Tech, where search firm reached out. I interviewed off-site, had the opportunity to go to Ruston, Louisiana. By then I had 2 boys, so I'm married with my wife, Jessica, and we go to Ruston, Louisiana with our 2 boys, and didn't know what to expect. And it was an incredibly enriching experience. Continuing to evolve as an athletic director and as an administrator, how to evolve, how to level up, and then how to continue to grow in the profession. Did that for 7 years and had the incredible opportunity to go to Vanderbilt to be the deputy athletic director there, work for Candace Lee, and really be a part of kind of the modernization and the new era of Vanderbilt athletics. And was just incredibly blessed to be there during a time of great change and improvement. And then the opportunity to get back into the chair and work at a place that held similar values as Vanderbilt did from an academic and a prestige standpoint at Rice University, to come here to, again, run my own shop, but also do it near home. My wife is from East Texas. I'm from Southwest Louisiana. But also to do it at a place that I had really begun to appreciate the value-based proposition that Vanderbilt held, and Rice is very similar in that regard. And so that's the journey that I've been on for these however many years, and now find myself here in Houston and continuing to figure out how we can improve the student-athlete experience, the fan experience, and win games here at Rice.
Yeah, so more than 20 years of experience working in college athletics, and I'd say easily more than 3/4 of that spent in the chair. So when you reflect on your journey, what are some of the lessons learned and maybe some of the advantages and disadvantages of spending so much of your career in that decision-making role?
Well, yeah, it's a wise observation. I think so many people say, "Oh man, you've been an AD so long. That's great. You're full." I have a lot of scars, right? A lot of this is what I did right, this is what I did wrong, and I failed in many ways, way more than I've succeeded. I think that the what people don't understand, I often ask myself this now. I have 2 boys, one of whom wants to be in college athletics. What would I allow him to become the AD at McNeese at 25? And you say, well, of course you would. Well, I think the answer is ultimately still yes, but there's a lot of caution there in that, when you're trying to grow your career and you don't have a baseline of foundational things, right, of basic understandings and mentorship, and the ability to create the foundation that's required in order to build the growth of your career that you want. There's a lot of there was some vulnerability for me. There are moments there where it could have fallen, and I would not have had the foundation to support it. And what I mean by that is, so many of the people that I admire in this industry, I never worked for. I didn't work for Joe Castiglione or Kevin White or, Gene Smith or other folks in this business, the Lost Dodds, that I never had a chance to work for. And so I had to be intentional about building relationships with those leaders to help them to understand who I was, what I was about, and what I was trying to accomplish. And it's not simply about professional growth and development. Yes, at some point I might want their advocacy on a job opportunity, but it was also about who can I trust to be vulnerable with about when I need an answer to something. I don't know what to do in here. Who could I trust to be vulnerable with? And I've been fortunate over the years to kind of graft onto a few of those folks, but it's still not the same relationship that for those that work for those people. Because at the end of the day, it is more of an adoptive relationship than someone that you would have worked for. You don't have the same level of trust, and so that's been the positive. The positives on it is I had the experience. I mean, at the end of the day, I've been able to say that I've been in a multitude of situations, positive and negative, and I can reflect on those and draw on those experiences in order to inform how we lead here at Rice. Because every place is unique. Rice has its own unique DNA and personality. The way I led at McNeese or Louisiana Tech cannot be the way I lead here. The fundamentals are the same and the core values can't change. But the recipe for success at Rice is different than it was at Louisiana Tech, which is public school in rural North Louisiana, as opposed to a high academic in a major city. The strategy has to adjust some. And so I can draw on a multitude of experiences in order to lead Rice where we need to go.
You mentioned mentors and how you kind of had to go about it in an unorthodox way to develop some of those folks that you could learn from and lean on. Who are some of those individuals who helped you along your way and were willing to go outside of their tree, so to speak, to invest in you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's probably 2 groups. And I think if we do this interview in 15 years, maybe, I think there'll be a 3rd group. And right now, the 2 groups would be those that have had experience above me. They've been doing it a while. I mentioned some of those, Joe Castiglione and Kevin White and Joan Cronin, that was the former athletic director for the athletic department at Tennessee. She and I connected on a geographical level because she is from Louisiana and very near to my hometown. And she's been a great source for me as well over the years. There's been many. Ward Manuel through the Sports Management Institute, SMI, we've connected. He's also a Louisiana guy. And, over the years, I've been able to embed myself in those people's lives to where I can ask them conversation like I'm stuck in this issue. And how would you proceed with this? Or what would your advice be? And where I trust what they're saying, but I trust that I can be vulnerable with them. Ian McCall is another one that comes to mind for me. Jay Jacobs, who's now retired, was former AD at Auburn. These are folks that really have invested in me over the years. And that second group is a group of people, quite frankly, they're peers that I trust and I value their opinion. And they, in many ways, they're in my cohort in this career. And so, those are, quite frankly, you're one of them. And Ren Baker and Brian White and Jeremy McLean, Brent Jones, so many other people that I'm not naming now, that we all came into this business relatively around the same time. And we're migrating through this process, learning, continuing to learn how to lead and how to evolve in this changing landscape. But when you work alongside people, maybe not with them, but alongside people in boardrooms and conference rooms and committees, you do gain a level of respect and trust for those individuals. And that's kind of a group of people that I would say that I admire. And the point of making it in 15 years is that I would hope that there's a younger group of people that I would continue to learn from. And there are some already that I would identify that are probably the next generation of leadership. And that's really a cycle that should occur at some point. I love the fact that when I talk to Joe Castiglione, he does ask me my opinion on certain things too. He wants to know what we're doing at Rice. And I think that's a reflection of a person who's secure in his leadership and knows that he still has to continue to learn in order to lead his program as well.
One of those connection points for many of the relationships that you mentioned has been Cal's, and you were one of the OG Cal's contributors. So you were in the room in 2011 at the very first Cal's in Tulsa. So what are some of your memories from that first Cal's, and what role has Cal's played in your professional development and some of the relationships you've been able to build over the last 10 or 15 years?
Yeah, I remember it very well, going to Tulsa, not really knowing what it was. There was a relationship with Will Reese prior to that first Cal's, but it really was just him begging probably a handful of people to come, but understanding the concept that this was about as you're in the chair. And I think it, if I remember correctly, started kind of with a conversation with Bubba and some others. Bubba at the time was at Tulsa, where it's like, hey, as I'm now in the chair, it's harder for me to understand that next generation of leadership, whether it's a marketing person or someone to run fundraising or compliance. How I get a concentrated group of people in there that we can create meaningful contact points. And so that was the premise of it. Went to Tulsa, and I do remember that being a separator from other conferences or experiences that I had gone to before, where you were put into an intentional situation where you got to meet other people in different capacities and roles in different processes along their career development. And so you walk away with, man, I had a great impression of this individual. And what might happen, and this is the way of Cal's, right? I've had a senior associate AD that just left. I call Will and I call three other people, and they're telling me about people over the last year or two that they've met at Cal's that might fit this role. And so it becomes a great source of prospecting for opportunities that I'm not tied in as much as I used to be in those areas, because the world continues to evolve. I get older and they stay the same age. And so, I think it's an opportunity for people to really recognize there's an intentionality about development and growth and connectivity, that doesn't exist fully at every other event. I've been to however many it's been now. I've been to all of them, and it's great to see the growth and how it's blossomed into something that's really a staple in our industry. That as other networking events have maybe come and gone or modified, CALS continues to grow and evolve into something that's different each and every year.
Now, Ren Baker was on our program last month claiming that he's the only AD who has been to every single Cal. So I'm going to allow you to set the record straight.
That's not true. So it's actually very wrong. I've been to every one. Now, I have not made. I missed the opening at when it was in Kansas City. I think it was the opening event in Kansas City, because I had a major gift donor that I had to go see. And so I had to change a flight and I got in late. So maybe he's keeping roll at the beginning of these events. And so I didn't make the roll at that particular one, but I've been to every one, Ren Baker. Every one.
And I would bet money you've been to more sessions.
I've been to more sessions. I've taken more notes. I've been to more sessions. And I have, I've just been more attentive. That's what we would say.
That's hard to argue with. I'm glad you set the record straight there. All right, a little bit of a transition here. I want to talk to you about coaching searches. One, because I know you've had two really high-profile coaching searches in your short tenure at Rice, and I want to dive into each of those a little bit. But before we do that, I want you to talk to us a little bit about your process, because I know you've had a lot of reps through the years sitting in the chair, and you have a pretty well-defined process of how you want to go about a coaching search from start to finish. So walk us through that.
Yeah, I'd say, again, going back to how you I don't remember where. I think it was a Nike Villa 7 event early in my career, and there was a guest speaker, someone. It wasn't actually even in the athletics industry. It was like a corporate hiring consultant that they had that came in, and they had that. This was the first time I'd heard that, before you begin to launch out into a search, the process. This sounds so elementary, but I don't know. I was not thinking of it this way. To write down the qualities of the things you want. What is it that you're looking for, right? So to physically write them out, to be thoughtful about it. Obviously, there has to be some flexibility, but you have to think of it almost like if you're scoring an RFP. So if you're scoring an RFP, you'd say, hey, what do we weigh more than, what is the weight on this one? What's the weight on this thing? What's the weight? So they were trying to take a very corporate approach and apply it to athletics, but it did allow me to think about that, right? So whether it being at Louisiana Tech or Houston, I always use this at Louisiana Tech. Likability was a factor at Louisiana Tech. When you live in a community like Ruston, Louisiana, and you're not likable, like you're pumping gas at the gas station, somebody comes up to you and you're short with them, that's gonna create less margin for you quickly, because that's a place that is very friendly, and you're gonna interact with people in the grocery store and they don't know who you are. Maybe that's not as big enough factor at a place that is larger city or whatever, where there's not gonna be as much interaction. So, what I would say is to write down those qualities. What is it that you're looking for in characteristics? So again, whether it's style of play, whether it's head coaching experience, whether it's ties to the state at a place like Rice, does being at a private school matter? Yes, I would say it does, but it's probably weighted a little lower to me, because at some point I wasn't in a private school, right? I'm a Vanderbilt and Rice, but if you look at my career before that, I have any of it. And so I think quality people can adjust pretty quickly. And so being process oriented there, because what happens is once you launch off into the search, particularly the higher profile searches, football, basketball, you're going to get pulled in a bunch of different directions. You're going to get a phone call from Coach Saban about a coach. You're going to get a phone call from Coach K. And the alumni are going to have a strong opinion, and the media is going to have an opinion about what you should do. And those should all be intaked, right? You should all take that into the process and allow that to filter, but it should not deviate you from what your strong convictions are on your like the characteristics you're looking for. And so in our football search and our basketball search, both of those, my number one criteria and the most weight was previous or head coaching experience and a proven track record of winning. And so again, does that mean that I didn't interview assistant coaches that we weren't serious about? No, because I'm also not naive to think that your search can take a left turn at some point, and where are you going to go, right? And so you have to always have plan A, B, C, and D. But to the extent possible, That was the most important process for our characteristic that we wanted to achieve. And we were fortunate that we were able to do that. In the basketball search, it did kind of take a turn pretty quickly. And Coach Lanier wasn't even available until the last 24 hours because he had a job. And then all of a sudden he was, got fired. And so then he became part of our process pretty quickly. And that allowed us to understand really quickly that he met the things that we were looking for. And so that we moved forward with him. With the football search, it was a little different because the timing was different. The season had not ended. We were able to be very specific on who we wanted to communicate to. And at the end, all of our kind of final two handful of people all met that criteria. They all had head coaching experience and had been proven winners.
Talk to us a little bit more about that football search that just ended in the hiring of Scott Abel. And just when you talk about a wide net, describe for us what that wide net process looks like, how you kind of narrow it down, and some of the things that are contributing to that process of elimination to try to get it to the place where
I would say it this way, in all sincerity. I don't know if this would have been, not to say a traditional search, but like in yesteryear when season's over with, pressure to hire a coach within 5 to 10 days, you're like, got to go, right? There's pressure. Because we let our previous head coach go on October 27th, and then we had the time, right? Because while we were playing, there wasn't the pressure from everyone to say, when are you going to name a coach? They all understood that you're going to get closer to the end of the season before that happens. That enabled us to have multiple of handfuls of conversations with people. It started wider than normal because we had time. I'm not going to hire a coach for 3.5, 4 more weeks. So if you gave me a name, sure, I'll jump on the phone with them. I'll talk to them. And so what harm would that do for me to have the conversation? So we were probably wider than normal. But then as we begin to narrow, it did allow us to have multiple phone conversations, multiple Zoom conversations, multiple follow-up Zooms, and then ultimately in person in a very thoughtful and unrushed manner. That probably benefited Coach Abel more than anybody because he was, head coach at Davidson. And the more we spoke to him, the more we visited with him, the more we pressure tested certain things, the more confidence that we got that he was exactly what we were looking for along the way. Had that been a 5-day timeline, I'm not sure we would have had enough of those touch points to have the confidence that we had in saying that he is absolutely the right hire. So in some ways, in other ways, I hope I never have to do a search like that again because it was hard. It was hard for our student athletes. A credit to them for continuing. They went 2-2 after we made a coaching change. They continued to fight. They won senior day. They ended on a high note. All of those things were positive, but couldn't be more excited about Coach Abel and what he's going to bring to Rice football. He's been a place that at Davidson College in North Carolina, and then Washington and Lee University in Virginia, that are two high academics. Rice is different, right? Rice is not for everyone. And you have to think the job is different in the way that you think about it. And so at those two places, he understands the high-end academic experience while also taking 2 programs that had not won conference championships. Well, Washington and Lee had not. He won 4 when he was there. And then Davidson had not had a winning season in 12 years and had not won a Division I game in 6, and then had 7 straight winning seasons. So again, at the end of the day, you're looking for as many data points as possible, and we feel really good about the data points there.
Sticking with the hiring theme for a minute, I know in the 18 months that you've been at Rice, you've also had the opportunity to assemble several key pieces to your senior leadership team. Talk about that process in terms of what you're looking for when you're looking to add people to your leadership team and how you go about identifying those candidates and investing in the next generation of leaders.
Yeah, I think for me, this is probably an area where one area that I would say as I look back, I've grown a lot in that, and this probably goes back to why, I'm wanting a sitting head coach, to take over the job, because the being secure versus insecure in your decisions, right? So whether that's retaining staff because you see the value in them, because you recognize they have a skill set that could benefit you. Now you have to still get to the point of trust. because that's the first and foremost. But do I trust this person that they're going to be, not loyal to a fault, but are they going to work with me in a way that is loyal? Do I trust them to do their job well, and can they execute? And if you do, then you're more secure in keeping people that were already here, right? So as opposed to everyone's out, I don't trust anybody. The other thing is I want people that I trust that can do the job, that are loyal, but that I trust to challenge me in the areas that I'm not strong. And so as I think about Eric George, who I was fortunate enough to bring from Mississippi State as the deputy, who I worked with when I was in the SEC at Vanderbilt, I know that Eric is way stronger than I am in the areas that he is strong. And I need him to challenge me in the areas that I need to be challenged in. But I trust that he's loyal to me in that process, right? So that we can work together to move Rice forward. Because at the end of the day, I may be a generalist in leadership, but I do have skill sets that are better than others. And so how do I hire people that can complement me in my weak areas while also supporting me in the areas that I'm strong, so that we can be as strong as we can be? And so we've been fortunate to, Eric George, Fumi Jimo Blakemore, who was an Olympian here, brought in as our, she's in our Hall of Fame. She was a track athlete, brought her as our chief of staff. And she has been almost invaluable because of her perspective as a former student athlete. And then Devon Robb, who we brought in as a senior associate AD for our competitive excellence initiatives, where basically, where are the areas that we have barriers to our success, and how are you going to partner with the leaders in those areas to help remove those barriers? And Devon is a culture builder. He is a guy that I trust explicitly to make sure that what we are trying to build, the secret sauce of our culture, is being spread throughout the department to our student athletes, our coaches, and our staff, while also working to make sure we're removing those barriers for success. And there's been others that we've brought in, but those are the first three. And, we've been able to assemble a team. Kevin DeWan's a guy. We had Tanner Gardner, who was here, and then he left to go to Pepperdine as the AD. And then we brought in Kevin DeWan from VCU, and he's continued to take off pick up where Tanner left off and move us forward in the area of external.
As you're putting those pieces together and then thinking about the future needs for your department, have you identified some skill sets or some people with backgrounds and different experiences that are a priority now as the industry changes so much, and the needs and the kinds of problems that you're trying to solve on a daily basis are different than they were 5 or 10 years ago, or are things pretty similar to the way they've always been?
No, I mean, I think we have to evolve, right? And I would say whether that's bringing in new perspectives, people that have different views, or we all have to be learners. I mean, I can't lead. Again, I know the school, the place is different, but I can't even try to lead the same way I did at McNeese or Louisiana Tech. I have to evolve. I was out for 3.5 years from the chair, and it's a completely different job. It's a completely different subset of challenges and pressures. And so I have to evolve into what is the next era of my leadership. And I would expect and hope that our staff, even if they've been here a long time, that they're continuing to evolve. And that's my job, to continue to press them, to invest in them, to make sure that we're continuing to grow. It is good to have new outside perspectives, but also expect us to also evolve as a group.
The industry is changing. There's no doubt about it. It's probably more complicated and stressful than it's ever been. We could talk all day long about that, but I'll just put it to you this way. What are the things that concern you the most about the state that college athletics is in right now and where we're headed?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that do keep me up. There are a lot of things that concern me for the future, particularly as a father who is raising 2 boys who, my father, who, not a philosopher, but in many ways is, he used a word a lot in our household when we would encounter difficult times, albeit, athletic or academic or social. Stick-to-itiveness. He would say, son, you have to have some stick-to-itiveness here. Great things come for he who waits. And those things echo in my head from him, and I can call back on times in my life where I wanted to exit or I wanted to change. And that would be his tone of encouragement. And I would fight through that. And on the other side was a great reward. It didn't always happen that way, but I can't imagine being the leader that I'm being, the position that I put in leadership without having some stick-to-itiveness, because there's a lot of days where it gets really hard. And you know, if you're looking for the exit, it's hard to lead when you do that. And so that's specific to the transfer portal, obviously. And it is hard when you think about, you know, a kid going to a place, four different schools in 4 years. I mean, where are you building foundations for relationships? I mean, what we sell at Rice is it's a 40-year decision. And so you come here, yes, we are going to participate in NIL. Yes, we want you to compete at the highest level. We want to put kids in the NFL and the NBA, which, by the way, we have all of those in the MLB. Some of the highest paid contracts in the MLB are Rice student athletes. So you can do both, but ultimately we want to prepare you for the next chapter. And how do you do that if you go to this school, then this school, then this school, then this school? And so those are the things that concern me. I think where I get encouraged is when I think about a platform like CALS and its ability to invest in the next generation of leaders who are going to be the stewards of this industry. And as I often remind myself when I have those moments of weakness, when I think about, is this what I want to be doing? If I'm not in this office, and if Ren Baker's not in his office, someone's going to occupy those offices. Someone is going to be the athletic director at each of these institutions. And I would rather it be Ren Baker, and I would rather it be Brian White and Jeremy McLean and Candace Lee. I would rather it be those people who are occupying those offices, because I know that they're making decisions for the betterment of their campus, their student athletes, and our industry. They're not perfect, but I know their hearts. And ultimately, I would say that CALS is a place that can foster that next generation of leadership so that the vast majority of these chairs and these offices can be occupied by people that care deeply about not preserving the status quo. That's not what it's about, but making sure that the industry is healthy as we move forward. So there are concerns, but it takes people willing to get in there and help make a difference so that we can look up again, 15, 20 years from now, or even past that, and say that these were turbulent waters. We got through them. And at the core of it, when that kid steps into the batter's boxes and, digs down and he's getting ready to face this pitcher, in that moment, that's the core of what we do, is giving the young man, the young woman opportunity to be at the foul line, making the game-winning shot, to get an incredible degree in education, to be prepared for life after ball, and to do it with the least amount of debt, if none at all. And that is the opportunity that college athletics affords our student athletes.
That's really good. In our last few minutes together, I want to give you an opportunity to speak more directly to that CALS audience, to those emerging leaders. And I'll start with this question. If you could go back and tell 25-year-old wet behind the ears Tommy McClelland, who just got named the interim AD at McNeese State, if you could give him some advice about some of the challenges and opportunities he was going to face as he navigated those early years working in the industry, what would you tell him?
Well, I'm going to tell him what my father told me, again, who was not a college athletic administrator. My dad worked for 47 years for the United States Department of Agriculture. That's a far cry away from being the athletic director anywhere. But what he told me the day that I got the job is he said, son, you're going to have thick skin and an oily back. Because you're going to get blamed for everything, and you're going to get accused, and you're going to get, there's going to be a lot of arrows thrown at you. But you have to lead with integrity. You have to be convicted in your core values. You have to it's never wrong to do the right thing. And when you step out and you are the leader, you expose your back to the crowd. And so my advice to young people is that craving to be the leader, you have to understand with what that brings and what that will bring upon you. And in my case, my family, my kids are now on Twitter, and they can tell that there are people that are displeased with their father for the decisions I made or that I don't make. And so you have to understand that or standing on the sideline this year at a game, hearing fans, yell incredibly terrible things at me because we had not made a change in a football coach with my son standing there. And at the end of the day, that's part of it. You got to deal with it. And you have to kind of blind it out. So I would encourage people that as you take people's positions of leadership, you will then be in a position to be judged. And you have to be okay with that. And at the end of the day, it goes back to the search process. What are your core values? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And stay grounded in that. Because if you allow the noise, whether it's in a search process or, some other judgment that people are casting on you, make you sway, then you may wind up making a decision that is going to be harder for you to sleep at night because you knew it wasn't the right decision. At the end of the day, a leader is going to get blamed for what they do, their decisions. I would rather be blamed for the ones that have convictions on and say that I made that bet. That's who I am. And so the other thing I would say is I tell young people is, you have to, there has to be a level of hard work, loyalty, and have fun. If you're not, like, we spend so much time around each other in these offices and around each other and what we do, it doesn't mean we can't have disruption or disagreement or debate. You want to enjoy working with the people you work with. You don't want, it's really tough when you're in an environment when you see somebody coming down the hallway and you're like, golly, close your door. That's not fun. So work hard, be loyal, have fun. And also at the end of the day, my encouragement to people is, we work 100 yards from the largest medical center in the country. And I remind our staff all the time, what we do on this side of the street is not nearly as important as what they're doing on the other side of the street. I mean, we are in the entertainment and education business. It's important, but these people are solving complex problems that can help society. And so at the end of the day, you have to understand your perspective of what you're doing. We get to sell tickets, so that's what we do. We get paid to go to games.
Yeah, that's great perspective. You mentioned your family a couple of times. I know how important your family is to you. Talk a little bit about how you keep your priorities in order and how you integrate your family into your work and this lifestyle that you've taken on.
Yeah, I mean, greatest advice that I got was from Louis Bonnet, who is a longtime legendary sports information director at McNeese, whose son Matthew is at LSU, and his other son Michael Matthew is at McNeese, took over for him at McNeese, and Michael is at LSU. One of the great athletic families in our industry. Louis Bonnet told me the day that Lawson was born at the hospital in Lake Charles, he said, "Hey, great family, kid's really lucky. Take him everywhere. Don't try to separate it. Just bring him. Be unapologetic about it." And he said, that's what I did. And I was the AD, so I know there's a little bit more rope there. I understand that I have more authority there to do that. But I also try to do that in order to empower those around me to do that. And so whether I was at McNeese, Louisiana Tech, or Vanderbilt, and Candace Lee allowed that to happen, our kids were everywhere. They're just part of what we do. And, that I think, like, when we do a coaching search, I become very focused on the process and the search. So it makes me not as available to my family as I wanted to be. And so then what I've done over the years is when we get to the end, and I would say I've had a couple of moments of that, but here in the next couple of days, we get through the transition with our staff and the portal here, I will take some time specifically with my wife, and we will go on a small trip or something, because it's such a demand on our family because I am unavailable and my wife has to really lean into that. And I just think that's part of kind of an exercise that I do, is that at the end of a search, I want to be intentional in showing my family that now that this is over with, I want to insert back into an area where I can show some intentionality around our relationship.
I want to talk before we are done here about those 3.5 years you spent at Vanderbilt, because it was very unique to move from so many years in the chair to back to that support position. What did you learn through that experience that maybe you wouldn't have if you had not had that opportunity to go and work for Candace? And how did that experience help you grow and become a better AD for Rice?
Yeah. I think there's been, I think as I think back on my career, each one of those changed the trajectory of what is possible for me. So a 25-year-old getting hired at McNeese, I mean, I'm indebted to McNeese. I mean, they hired a 25-year-old, and I would not be where I'm at today without them taking an opportunity on me. So I'm indebted. And then I was 31 when Louisiana Tech hired an in-state athletic director, which doesn't happen very often. And the people there were incredible to me. And the donors there that allowed us to unlock our vision changed my career. Vanderbilt changed the perception of who I was, like it does for so many kids. So I didn't go to Vanderbilt. I didn't go to Rice. But what we would tell all of our students, both, would tell the student athletes there is that by coming to Vanderbilt or coming to Rice, it's gonna unlock potential for you in the future that could never happen anywhere else. And that is a fact. And I saw it. I saw it with those student athletes. It did it for me. If I had not gone to Vanderbilt and had that opportunity, I would not be the athletic director at Rice. It was a prerequisite to be at a place like Rice for me to work at Vanderbilt. Now, what I did at Louisiana Tech and McNeese, I need to be able to do that here. But if I didn't go to Vanderbilt, I would not be here. So I know that. Candace Lee is one of the greatest leaders in our industry. And in my opinion, probably is not getting the credit that she deserves. What she has accomplished in her 4 years now there is nothing short of a miracle because of where it was. At the point in which she took over and what she has had to bring it to is remarkable. I obviously had the lens and the view through the external side, and it's been great. But even internally, the culture that she has built and the student athlete development and the way that they are programmatically winning games and championships across the board, she deserves a lot of credit. And I'm indebted to her because she allowed me to be she gave me a lot of autonomy in the external realm. But it was great to be able to, for the first time, be in an athletic director's kind of inner circle and not be the AD, and to see it from that vantage point. And it allowed me to think now as I move into building a staff, how am I running staff meetings, how I might have maybe not done things the way that I should have done, or how by doing this would make the people in the room feel, and how I might, adjust something. So it was an incredible experience. It was immensely rewarding for me professionally, personally as well. I think our family really enjoyed Nashville and living in that community. Who wouldn't? It's a great place. But I am very indebted to Candace and her faith. We did not have a deep relationship. She took a leap of faith in our relationship for me to go and help her run a department. By the way, that she didn't just get hired as some random person. She is 3 degrees from Vanderbilt. There's no one on that campus that wants Vanderbilt to win in everything more than her. And she entrusted me with a portion of the athletic department for her university. I'm grateful.
The last 18 months, a lot of life change, getting your family acclimated to a new city, hiring coaches in multiple sports, fundraising, I'm sure, looking at facility master plan, all of those things. You seem very invigorated by all of that. Just if you could sum up what the Rice experience has been like for you, and maybe some of your proudest and most rewarding moments in your first year and a half and tenure there.
Yeah, I when we moved from Ruston to Nashville, it felt like we moved from Ruston to Nashville. I mean, it was like moving from Mayberry to a large city, and our family felt it. So when we were going to move from Nashville to Houston, we assumed wrongly that we would move from one big city to a bigger city. And although statistically that is accurate, Houston is got to be the largest town in the country. I mean, they are the largest smallest town, I guess you would say. They are, this town is one of the most incredible places we've lived. Lance Berkman actually is the one that made this comment to me. He said, Houston's not a great place to visit, but is the absolute best place to live. And we have found that to be true. In our community, a community of people that most of whom didn't go to Rice, and they're not pulling for Rice, but they care about the McClellands. And we've seen that over and over repeated. The other thing that's really, really cool is that people in Houston and generally the state of Texas are very proud of Rice. They're very proud of what Rice stands for and what they have accomplished as a university. And so there is not a lot of, oh, you work at Rice. No, it's like, wow, you work at Rice. That's impressive. Then they find out I'm in athletics and they're like, okay, I thought you were an actual doctor. So it's been an incredible, from a university standpoint, President Reggie DeRoche and his cabinet that he's assembled are incredible to work with. The colleagues that I get a chance to interact with every day and help lead this university, they're all going to be great leaders throughout our industry and on college campuses for a long time. And I'm blessed to do it. It's an incredible place. We have a lot of ambition. The university just launched its strategic plan called Momentous, and it's a 10-year plan that would take Rice University from a really, really highly ranked university nationally to a very globally recognized university that is very proud of its athletics program. And that is my objective, is we want to make sure that, we can be the best versions of both. And so it's been an incredible experience. I'm looking forward to people seeing the things that we're working on now become visible. Because it's going to be a really moment in time where people say, wow, Rice is doing great things. And they will realize that first group of people that we assembled who have been working on it since day one.
Well, Tommy, we're really impressed with what you've been able to accomplish in your short tenure there. Grateful for your longstanding support of cows and the cows community, and can't thank you enough for the time that you took today to visit with us and for us to have the opportunity to learn a little bit more from you and your journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name's Ryan Peck, and I have the honor of being here with two elite individuals that I've known for a long, long time. But this is the lobby, courtesy of Will Reese and Cows, as we are getting ready to have a honest, personal conversation about our industry, about the changes, and about things that we go through on a daily basis in our roles that we are so excited to be a part of. Lauren's scaring me here, saying she's leaving and coming back. But as we get going here, I want to introduce Lauren Adee first of SMU. I'll let her tell her title and what she's been doing here recently for the Ponies.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Lauren Adee, Deputy AD, Chief Revenue Officer at SMU. I've been here 6 years. This is my second role at SMU. I started out doing a lot of the internal controls and some stuff internally, and then Rick moved me back over to the external side, but happy to be here with my friends.
She's popping in and out on us.
All right, good. Haven, give us an introduction for yourself.
Yeah, Haven Fields, humbled to serve as a Deputy AD and Chief Operating Officer here at the University of Nebraska. I've been here all of 8 months now, serving as our football sport administrator and also working with all of our external teams. Looking forward to our conversation today with Ryan and Lauren.
Great. And I'm Ryan Peck. I'm currently the Senior Deputy AD at TCU. I started here about 13 months ago. I was hired as the Deputy AD. And it's been a fast and furious time in purple. There's way too much red on this podcast, if I'm being honest. But, we're here with two great people, as I mentioned. And this is going to be fun, of this wild world that we're living in as we transition. And as I've talked to these two individuals, is what would be beneficial. But this world of NIL and transfer portal and everything that we're going through on a daily basis. But mainly it's leadership and the values and the people that we are, and the changes and leadership and chaos. And so as it's different for everyone. And I think us three on this podcast have had varying different paths of how we got to where we're at. And I think about conference transitions at SMU, but at the end of the day, these are good stresses, these are get to jobs. And these two people, don't ever let me forget it, because two of my trust is, they're my number ones and my close friends and people I can go to in any way, shape, and form. But Lauren, since you've been at SMU the longest your tenure, your current job, I'm going to start with you. Tell me a little bit what it's been like through the ACC transition. And I know as you led that path, and we joke some of the PTSD that you've dealt with, because I know that's a heavy lift. So tell us a little bit about that and how it's been for you and your department.
Yeah, I mean, we had 9 months to transition. So we were all just full steam ahead, really didn't have a summer. We officially entered on July 1. So we entered before the other two schools, and really wanted to make that special and have a big splash. So, like you always think the best laid plans are what's going to happen. But we started out, July 1, there's, no one's going to be in town, everyone's going to be on vacation. We talked about what that was going to look like. And we said, let's just have a fun, party at one of our sponsors' bars, and people will show up or they won't. Well, we ended up maxing it out. We had to close down registration. It's a pretty large space and venue, but literally, they were getting nervous, like, please shut this down. Like, no more people coming in. So it was packed wall to wall. We had all the mascots fly in. The commissioner flew in. We had the ACC network there. It was hot that day, Ryan,
Yes.
Texas. So you can understand it was hot because of the indoor-outdoor space, but it was awesome. We started meeting early before the day got started every single Tuesday, and that time was specifically dedicated to just strategizing and talking about the move. And now that meeting's turned into rev share and house meeting. But, just not to take up any of the time of the day that we needed to spend on other things. But yeah, it's been great. Obviously seeing some success immediately. So we're all really proud of that.
That's great. Kudos to you. And it was a heavy lift. How did you keep your personal balance and find time to make sure that you didn't burn out? Because being in the Metroplex, I've seen the hype, I've felt it. I give you credit and your team credit and Rick credit for as much as someone from TCU can. But what was it like for you personally, kind of just navigating it through it all to make sure that you were staying positive and happy and being a great leader through it all as you are?
Well, luckily I have you too, so I can make little snarky comments and text on the side when, things aren't going exactly. I don't have to say it out loud at work. I can get it out to my friends who know what we're going through or what I'm talking about. Because, some friends and family, I've worked in this industry my whole career, and they still, I don't think, know what I do. They're like, oh, you're going to games? Like, they have no idea. So as much as I try to explain it, having, honestly, this one of the things I think about so much about is this industry is so great because of the people and the people that really care about it and invest in it. And, having you guys, having a handful of other people just really to help navigate it. I know Ryan, I always text you like, what are you guys doing about this? Or we go back and forth because, our coaches talk a lot. So, that, and of course, like everyone else, like working out and, doing things that make you happy outside of work. But mainly those are the things I leaned on.
Yeah, that's good.
You know the texts.
I get the texts. I get the phone calls. I get it.
Exactly.
I get all the snarkiness there is, Ryan.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, that's a great point because I think all three of us, we value and we appreciate people, right? And even how we lead our staffs in our department. And so when we see news breaks and things that occur, I think about the people there that I care about and same Haven in that same regard. I know specifically the opportunities across the country for you personally from moves and from all different regions in the family. And every time you and we talk being a dad, being a father, being a husband. And I know you've had some job transitions in a great way because you are elite and things have been presented to you. So tell us a little bit about that and how it's been for you, because it was fast and furious, and all of us we're checking in on you, knowing the uncertainty that arose from AD shift to AD shift.
Yeah, and I appreciate the friendships. Lauren have introduced me to some of my best friends in the industry. And when you and I met, we hit it off, from the very beginning. And so I'm thankful for you both through these transitions. It's hard to say sometimes, I've had 3 jobs in the same calendar year. I don't say it that often, but I have, just thinking about the time at Ball State, that 5 years, which was great leadership with Beth and currently Jeff Mitchell being there, and then taking the shift to out West, knowing it was a great opportunity to help with the transition to the Big Ten and seeing Washington have success early on and getting to a bowl game in their first year. But I was only there for a hot cup of coffee, as I tell people. 3.5 months is not very long. I'm really thankful to Troy Dannon, for the opportunity to transition from Washington with him to the University of Nebraska. Full transparency, I did not know what to expect, but it's been great. The people, the community, the staff, very talented. And I've worked with very talented people over the course of this last year, and just excited to continue to build and learn and grow. And in the current role, you've worked with 2 football coaches. Working with Jed Fish was great through that hiring process and getting to know him. And we still talk to this day, because when you're part of that kind of thing, you don't just stop talking with the coach. And then obviously had to build the last 8 months with Matt Rule, who I think's been, phenomenal. And certainly a great fit. 2 old linebackers talking about their glory days, but not much of it. And just having a chance to talk football and meeting and having a chance to spend time and really develop a relationship with him, and doing everything I can to help catapult his program. And really excited that, they're getting to the first bowl game with him at the helm in the last 8, from, I guess the last one was 8 years ago. And so that's exciting as well. But, a lot of it is just been how you handle people. You guys, you mentioned it earlier. The relationships are so important. I've tried to, come in the right way, leave the right way, create transition plans the right way. I had a plan in Washington. Then all of a sudden that got blown up because I decided to leave the plan and take off, and coming here just trying to evaluate and get to know everybody. And it takes time. Those kind of transitions, as much as we love building relationships with people, and you both understand this, it still takes time when you've got a large organization. And I like to touch everybody. And I think from our seats, that's hard sometimes. You can't touch everybody. You can't develop relationships with everybody. Pop-ins are important, but trying to sit down from time to time is also something you want to do. It's just not always easy to do it. So, the people, and with it have helped with the transition tremendously. And then on top of that, just really trying to dial in on, what we need and how we can continue to be proactive and be a leader in this ever-changing space that we continue to be a part of. But again, I'm really excited to be here, and I'm just thankful for the people. Again, a shout out to Troy, because, he's decided to drag me along with him twice. And so I'm thankful for that, but also thankful for all my teammates who have been patient with me as we continue to learn and grow together.
Yeah. Let's go back a little bit on your path, and you talked about your plan, but in your wildest dreams, did you ever think of you'd be living in Alabama and then Indiana and then Washington and then Nebraska, and then the good Lord has a better plan always. But as you've thought about that, kind of twofold, as you think about your career plan and opportunities that you've gone and taken chances, and 2, how have you handled those conversations with your ADs, and what has that been like for through it all? Because it's unique, it's different, it's never easy. So touch on that, please.
Yeah, and you all can relate when it comes to opportunities. I think you've got to be really thoughtful in how you share the information with them, and you're communicating with them throughout the process. I think we've all had mentors. We have mentors now who want the best for our careers. So, I don't always want people to tell me how great I am. I want, people to be critical of what I'm doing from a performance perspective, or even from the standpoint of how I can just get better overall. And I think in this case, having those relationships and being able to have open, honest conversations about the career and the goals have certainly helped. And so, when it first happened, Jeff, he could have been like, hey man, I'm not sure, after I got the job at Washington, and I shared with him what was going on. I'll never forget when, Kalen DeBoer goes to Alabama and we're going through this process of needing to hire a football coach. Troy calls me. This is the example, right? Troy calls me and says, hey, I know you're not part of it all yet, but, we're going to have to hire a football coach. I go into Jeff's office and I say, hey, man, I've accepted this job, just gotten back from the CFP. Things are happening fast. I don't think it would be a good idea if I don't go to Washington and at least help Troy. He's not asking me to, but I think it's the right thing to do. And so I call a travel agent and I'm trying to figure out how to get to Seattle once I've got Jeff's blessing. And he understands it because he had just been through the transition from Southern Miss to Ball State. And so I fly out 7:00 in, Eastern time, from Indianapolis, and I'm in Seattle in Troy's office eating pizza that he didn't think was very good. I did. And we're talking about football coaching candidates. And so it starts with that, just making, knowing that you're going to have to make these transitions. There's some things you're going to have to do that you may not want to. And in the support I had, and he was happy that I did it. And part of the reason for doing it was I need to go help my new boss, who officially may not be that to date, but he's trying to hire a football coach. And then if I'm not there in that process, you both know if I come later, it's a rocky start for Jed Fish and I, because he's like, who is this guy? He hadn't been around. So it was really important. And I had my current boss's, support. I had Troy's support in that moment. And that's great. And I even shout out to Pat Chun when I had the conversation with him about leaving Washington. He was great and very supportive, the whole time, from when he arrived to when I left, and said, hey, you could be here, but I know there's things you probably want to do. And I made the decision to travel to Nebraska, not knowing a whole lot, but came up and checked things out and then made the commitment. And through that all, it was all about the people in between too, Ryan. Like, what kind of conversations are you having with people that you're leading, that are getting comfortable, you're building relationships with, and now you got to sit them down and explain things. And people were phenomenal because they understood this was about my path, my dreams, and wanting to take the next step in my career. But through all of this, I got to give a shout out to Dr. Maya Fields, my wife, because she's the real champion and MVP in all of it, because aside from the professional, there was the personal. And my wife watched all this happen in real time over the last year with my two sons and, Haven and Hendrix. And, you go visit them and my son's like, yeah, you're coming back home tomorrow, right? And I'm like, no, I'm going to Seattle. I'm not coming back home tomorrow. But they don't get that kind of stuff, right? So you're trying to find ways to continue, communicating. So every day while in Washington, I would 4:30 my time, 7:30 their time, I would Zoom, and we cry, we talk, we laugh, because I know that really tough time, with me being away for so long. It was hard. They came out to Washington for a few days, but it was really difficult, just because, again, it was me, an apartment, and an office. That's pretty much my transition. To Lauren's point, I probably ran more there. I probably lost more weight in Seattle than I ever did, because I was running like every day. I had nothing to do. And so I was just, on my own and doing things. But, even the transition from Washington to Nebraska was good because everybody here was wonderful. Teammates, community, as I mentioned earlier. But I finally got my family back with me in July. So I was without my family, in the same house from January of this year to July, of the middle of July. So that was tough. She let me pick the house out and all. She trusted me with a lot. And a lot of Zooms, a lot of, videos and that kind of thing. So I think the professional, it took care of itself. When you're right, not my plans, God's plans, it's never our own. But my wife was extremely patient, and really supportive in a way where it can be tough sometimes when, I grew up without my father, but I'm so in tune to being in the home with my sons, being blessed to have two. So, just tried to really think about how I could, really be thoughtful. And I've always journaled to my boys, and I did a lot of it when I was in Seattle, and then also here, just notes and things that I'll provide to them of this as they get older, to understand what this was like. And as you go through transitions and tough times, things you need to be thinking about. So that was certainly helpful and probably more therapeutic for me than they realized. But yeah, it was an interesting time, but I credit the people that have been around and their support, and again, their patience, knowing that, again, you're making all these transitions, you're trying to build relationships with all these people, And it's just really important to be in tune with what that's like and take the time to really think about your own journey and spend time with yourself because, again, it has been a lot in the last 10, 12 months.
Yeah, no, well, kudos to you. That's well said. And I think you talk about the leaders and even how we kind of navigating it through it. I have a note right here on my computer and it talks about mindfulness, right? And if I can spend 10 minutes journaling, 10 minutes reading, and 10 minutes of quiet time, that puts me in kind of the here and now as we navigate these challenges. And part of that, especially that reading part, I give credit to one of my very first bosses many, many years ago in the industry that Lauren works with daily, and Rick Hart.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, as he is an elite reader and challenged me early on in my career to build, grow, and develop. And it's funny to say, even as you talked about that, Rick was one early on for me that said, here's where you need to get better at. Here's where you can grow and build your network of people through this industry.
Right.
And it's and outlining a plan as to where I wanted to be. And so he probably is still mad at me to this day because I remember going into his office and saying, boss, what do I need to do to take that next step forward? You said we need to do this from game atmosphere. We need to do this from ticket sales. We need to do this from marketing. And I did it. So can I get a promotion? And then I got promoted and took a phone call to go to Denver. You know, a couple months later, that was completely unexpected. And I felt bad. I still feel bad to this day. And he gives me a hard time. But, you know, I think we've all been.
Ryan, I was happy you got promoted at TCU because Rick always jokes. He's like, I don't have any more titles to give you. I got nothing else, you know? And I'm like, oh, well, actually, TCU just made up this other title for Ryan. So, I mean, you know, Ryan over there.
I know it. Like, I think I've had everyone in the industry except for the main one I've been chasing. But I say all that like I don't think you can see it back here on my wall, kind of over there. That picture, it's every business card that I've had in this industry. And the reason that I do it is because at my very first job at FAU, they wouldn't buy me business cards, so I made it myself. I went to Office Max and got the logos and printed it out. And then as I thought I was being innovative at Chattanooga, I put a QR code on the back of my business card to try to link into my social media. I still, one of my biggest accomplishments is I'm one of the 100 followers that Rick Hart follows on Twitter because I helped start it for him on X now, you know. And then the time at Denver, and then I took a phone call to get down to UNT and work with Ren Baker, and Ren and I had some mutual connections that honestly I met at Cal's and Brent Jones and Tommy McClelland, but we connected instantly. And even with Ren and Rick and now even Jeremiah, the beauty of it, and Haven, you touched on it, is just being honest and transparent about what our goals are and our path. And so when we see things occur, and Ren and I, our first conversation was, hey, what do we want to do here? What do we want to accomplish? But where do we want to take this place? And what do we want for our families? And what's bigger? And what does it mean? And so when something would come up or a news report would come out, it didn't put me in any angst of, hey, my boss may be leaving. There may be a transition, because I think we're built for it. And I have good folks on this call and great friends in Cal's. It was like, you know what, we're going to be okay. We're going to navigate through. And that, even the phone call when TCU called, it was a whirlwind for me. Because my wife was high risk pregnancy. I had a 2-year-old, and that things is, as we talked about, how we make sure that we're good at our house first and foremost. And I remember taking the job, going up and down the highway, having a baby, buying a new house, and trying to get my feet here in Purple, get with coaches, ingrain myself. Oh yeah, it was also the middle of the football season, the basketball season, right? And so, Haven, you said it, and Lauren, I know you're the same way, of being present and getting here and being around our coaches and staff to understand the culture so that we can start to jump in and really share and really have an impact. And have an impact on the lives of our student athletes, as I know that we try to do daily. So it makes me laugh because we look back on it and the transitions. But I also rely on the good people of those nights of driving up and down the highways, or a positive text message, or an early morning phone call, so that it gets my mind set set to have a good day. But it's all intertwined, and I give Cals a lot of credit to it, where there are folks that when we get to see each other, it's the best, and hug your necks and commiserate together and also smile while we figure out NIL and rev share and whatever else a lawsuit or house settlement's going to throw at us, right?
Right. No doubt.
Lauren, how are you managing up these days and keeping Rick in line through this chaos and the things that are taking place in your world?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Rick's the best, so you know that. So his leadership, and even going to our president and our board, we're so aligned that it's made a lot of things easier for us, because we all want athletics to thrive and to be at the top and be successful. So, really, we're going to continue to invest and make sure that we have championship experiences, and we're going to focus on all the things that we need to academically and for our experience for our student athletes. We just need to figure out how to do that, right? We all know the goal. We all know what we're going to do. We just have to figure out and map it out how to get there. So like I said earlier, we start every Tuesday a little bit before the actual day starts. I mean, we all have meetings and stuff in between working on all this stuff, but really just to sit down and strategize. I mean, that's the strategy meeting, talk about all the new things, talk about all the new, I probably had so many pitch meetings and like vendors reach out. I mean, Rick was like, we just need to know everything that's out there, right? And so my head spins on I can't even remember all the company names and those type of things. But, we're just navigating it just like you all are doing. I know because we all talk about it and try to figure out how to get this thing going. But I'm excited for the future. I know a lot of people are down or, we don't know how everything's going to play out, but I'm really excited because it'll be a new way forward. And the best thing about our industry is it's always changing. We got through COVID. We got through all these things. When Alston first came out, we thought the sky was falling, and we got through that. So, yeah.
It's we joke now because as we all try to predict the future and think about what it's going to look like I'm just thinking about the sports management textbooks 10 years from now that'll be like, Alston money, what's that? Why were we giving $5,000, $200 to student athletes? Why? That's not around anymore. They're making six figures. What's happening, right? But it's I joke in a way because we're going through a great modernization of college athletics right now, and to an extent, it's a great commercialization of. But how do we do that? And I know you two especially. We're all believers in the academic opportunities and the educational foundation that our business is providing, even though it's changing. And I think we're up for the challenge. And I love it because it gets my mind being a little more innovative and pushing the envelope that at times our college campuses haven't always been welcome to. And so, as we kind of wind up here, Haven, to that extent, like as you navigate change with a diehard, huge fan base that is one of the most passionate in the country, how's that been? And from a leadership standpoint and from a communication standpoint, what does that look like for you guys right now in Nebraska?
Yeah, we've had so much transition within leadership. I mean, you talk about me coming in. We've hired quite a few new people that Kristen Brown, Deputy AD for Senior Women Administrator, our Deputy AD for our Chief Financial Officer, Seth Dorsey, who I think is great. He came from Washington with me, really bright guy, and has done wonderful things already here. Courtney Gaucher, who oversees our capital planning and facilities, he's hired a whole new team. Through all the transition, it's probably been interesting for a lot of the staff here because you got all this new leadership, and trying to really think about what we've done in the past, but how do you implement new and blend that together, because there's a lot of things here that have been done extremely well. But there's also ways that we all can continue to get better in our operation, our programs, and all those things. So, trying to set the tone, and it was set early by Troy. He's really transparent, when he visits with, our staff, and making sure everybody understands that, we want to have set a standard. We want to be excellent in everything that we do. We want to aspire to be the best. We're not looking at some of the Big Ten foes as much in our league and what they're doing. We want people to see what we're doing and gravitate towards that, right? And so I think all those things are important for us. But at the top of it all, through all that transition, we're being really bold in some of the things we're thinking about doing. Many people have probably read about our stadium project, which I say we're renovating the stadium project in some ways and what we're doing versus what may have been there before under previous leadership. Where we're going to be really bold as it relates to Memorial Stadium and trying to be thoughtful of what we can provide our fans. I think the communication is constant right now, but the other piece of that for us is going to be how we educate them in a lot of ways, Ryan and Lauren and those listening, because when you have not had a lot of change in a space or a stadium, and you both know this being on the revenue side, there's a lot of people who have a lot to say. And I just think it's going to be really important in how we deliver the message. But I think the education is going to become really important in what we do as it relates to our stadium and several other projects. Really exciting time right now for what's taking place with volleyball. We hosted last weekend. We're hosting again this weekend. Not very many people can say that they actually beat the Huskers this year, but one person on the cart maybe say it right now. SMU beat us earlier this year, but it's been fun to watch. Again, being able to host and knowing the opportunities that we have this weekend in Devaney. But I guess the big thing is just trying to make sure, again, with all the new leadership, how do you get everybody on the same wavelength to move in the right direction? Continue to have conversations with coaches around the revenue sharing. And our coaches have been phenomenal in their responses. I know there's a lot for us all to think through and how we're going to be able to do certain things and how we want to support all of our programs. But our coaches have been really good in their responses. And we've met with them all. We've had conversations with them, with staff. And we're just trying to create a plan and move forward with some contingencies, because I think you all said it earlier. I think, it was mentioned that, we don't know where all of this is going. News continues to come out, but it can change overnight. And so, again, I've said communication a couple of times. I think over-communicating right now is really important in departments across the board with coaches, sport administrators, anyone supporting programs right now. Really important, because with football, you're seeing this right now. The portal's open. A lot's happening. We're seeing a lot of coaching changes. We've obviously had some coaches leave, some come to our football program we're really excited about. And so you've just got to really be able to communicate at a high level with everyone across the board that needs to be, that's part of the job. You talked about Rick being, I've got a lot of respect for Rick. It's so important for us as it relates to our ADs. I often say sometimes it's our job to keep things off their desk, right? But we've got to communicate at a high level. We've got to know how to manage up, manage down in these roles. And it's no different. It's a situation where you're trying to keep them informed, but you're also trying to keep things away from them that they don't need to worry about, because we know they're busy. They're CEOs. They're out speaking to the public. They're out speaking to legislators, administrators, other people. And so it becomes so important in how we do that. And I think the only way to really do it is just, again, rely on your staff and understanding how you're managing up, managing down, but at the same time, making sure everybody understands the goals and the plans and not deviating away from that. So, a lot of excitement here. Again, a lot of projects that are coming, a lot of opportunities for us, from a development perspective, and different ways we're approaching, our priority systems and points. We've made some hires, going through some transition there that I think is going to be helpful to Nebraska, to our donor base, to our fan base. And you're right. My first experience, in that stadium, early this year when we played UTEP was unbelievable. You go out and I started to cry because it was so loud in the atmosphere, and I was, juiced because I hadn't been around that. And so I'm thankful to have the fan base that we do. I'll never forget April 26th, our spring football game. I had just gotten here 3 days before that, starting the job. And I'm walking through the concourse, Ryan and Lauren, with no credential. I had it stuck in. I had my hat on. I wanted to walk around and just kind of see the operation. 65,000 people at a spring game. I want to see what that looks like. Why? Why did 65,000 people come to a spring game? And so I'm walking in the concourse, and this lady runs over to me and says, "Sir, are you Haven?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." And she says, "Haven Fields." And I said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "Welcome to Nebraska. We're so glad to have you here. And you and your wife, her name's Maya, and you got 2 boys." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." I almost started to cry again because she's like, ultimately, like she knows me, and she gave me this big old hug. And I'm like, she saw a press release, obviously, but I don't know how she saw me. Maybe I took my hat off to scratch my head or something, but I don't know. But
Even the local celebrity is again.
and I'm like, oh my goodness. And it was phenomenal that she even recognized me. But I knew at that point I was in a special place where people actually care and they want to know not just the student athletes, but they want to know the staff. And that was a special moment for me. So again, it's just one thing or an example to your point, Ryan, about our fans and their passion and their commitment and their loyalty and want to know everyone and want us to have success.
No, that's great. Hey, but
Ryan, you're asking us all the questions. I mean, what's going on at TCU? You guys navigating them transition.
You had a little bit of a transition. You had a lot going on. And I think one of the questions I would ask to you, Ryan, is like, through that transition of leadership, you obviously in a leadership role, how do you work to communicate with your staff and make sure everyone knows, again, we got to continue to move forward with the plans we've had in place this year, knowing that there's going to be a change, potentially at the top. But you still got to continue to move forward with the goals that you guys have set externally this year to continue to move the needle.
Absolutely. Well, Haven, going back to your press release and them seeing you, people would say, "I think I've seen you before," but it's because there's a lot more Photoshop work done on my press release. I look nothing. I'm not as beautiful as you. So I was a little more Tito when I started.
That's not true. That is not true. False
statement. When I started here, but it's and as I'll touch on that as we kind of wrap up here and some final thoughts too. But, it's, you look at TCU today and where we're at, and we have a new president who's going to transition into chancellor here in a couple of weeks. Our head of our athletics board chair, he stepped away the past couple of months ago. He's got some small job as the CEO of Nike, so he had to go up there and, take care of that. So we have a new new athletics board chair in Rusty Reed, who's he'll be great for us as well. Then just as Elliot Hill was it, but he'll take care of Nike. We're hiring a new provost right now for our university. On campus, we have a new vice chancellor of marketing and communications. We've had a new athletics FAR in the past since I've started here, and then you had here in the past couple of weeks, a new athletic director, as Jeremiah Donati, who has done such an unbelievable job of building this place and transitioning from when it was Chris Del Conte to Jeremiah. I had on my calendar, I was going to be celebrating his work anniversary, and instead I'm working on the communication plan around his transition and as to what it means and where things are going. And I couldn't be more excited for him. And I think with our bosses and leaders, as I was talking to our donors and people on campus and our coaches and staff, first and foremost, I'm excited for my friend. And someone that I have the utmost respect for, because, he's making the right decision for him and his family. And I will support that fully. And it gets, and same time, I'm sad because I'm losing someone I've been in the trenches with, for a little over a year. But I don't fault him. There's no anger, in any of it. And I want to help, continue to uplift. So, it's funny, ending kind of where we started, but my first focus, when this news was breaking and, kind of heard that it may be coming about, was people and how can I be there first and foremost to support our student athletes, support our staff, and support our coaches. And so there's always going to be that shock value when we go through, this was not a crisis, but when we go through change and unexpected news of how we're taking care of those around us. And that's, Haven, you said it, communicating up, communicating sideways, and communicating down. And so that's, I took a deep breath and said, all right, what do we need to do? What does that plan look like? And all while we're thinking about rev share plan, where we're thinking about the transfer portal open that same day. I mean, can you imagine our head football coach and all the change that he's going through? I'm worried about him, trying to sign guys and his bosses are changing at the top. And you think about our university, and Lauren has seen some of this because we've talked about it we're in a master plan. We're just rolling out a new strategic plan, lead on values in action that has athletics as a core pillar. And through these times of leadership change, I don't want people that are looking for direction to feel lost. And so that's where I try and step up, where I think you operate in the same way. We're very great as the right-hand man, the right-hand woman, the go-to that our bosses know they can call for anything. And now it's stepping up to making sure that we're still able to operate that way. And so first thing I did, we have 2 senior deputies here. Him and I huddled up and had a little dap, had a little hug, and say, let's do this. We're not going anywhere. Our plans are moving forward. And I joke because now for some big decisions, we have one less person in the room we need approval for, And so, hey, we can get some things happening too, but it's nothing off the wall because Jeremiah has done such a great job building the culture here, but it's thinking about the future. And for me personally, and my wife knows, there's it's her, and I feel good when my kids feel loved and things are good at home, but there's been some additional meetings with the chancellor and the president we have to attend to be present that Jeremiah typically has done, and even catching up with him. And as he moves on and shifts to South Carolina, there's some big projects that he was leading that we're going to make sure don't fall through the cracks. And I know you all operate in that same manner because we're built for this. We've come up through it. We've done it. And we're going to find a way. And just like COVID and revenue share, I'm sure it'll all be for nothing. It'll pivot and there'll be employees in a couple of years anyway. So, let's put a good plan forward. It's in the best interest of our universities, and we'll build through the future. So it keeps us busy. It's a little bit of job security, even through the job, uncertainties. But if we're good people at our core and our values, that we'll persevere on through the chaos and come out better on the other side of it and be better for it to have opportunities like this to share with our group. So I love this because these are 2 of my best, 2 of the people I know I can always call on, 2 that if we don't talk every day, every week, I know when I'm seeing or when I do see them, it's been wonderful. But, final thoughts, anything else, for our cows community that you want to share as we've all have navigated through the chaos of this industry? Lauren, do you want to go first?
I was just going to say, Ryan Peck, mic drop. I mean, that's the best way to end it. Like, that was great. No, I don't know. I'm just really happy that I got some extra time with my 2 friends over here and just excited about what the future holds for our industry and for SMU.
No, and you brought up a great point earlier, Ryan, about, COVID, and we've seen NIL, and now we got the rev share, and we've seen a lot of transition.
I think that was me. No.
Yeah, both of you. I often think about the fact that we're dealing with so much. There's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of concern and challenges. And, my grandfather used to say it, and I heard Denzel Washington say it one time too. When you pray for the rain, you got to prepare for the mud too. And in that statement, I would always say, like, okay, but what did that mean? I don't know that I ever understood it, but I think this is one of those times, right? We're praying we're excited about the future and we want great things to happen, but we know there's some challenges that we've got to be prepared for, right? And we will. As an industry, we'll prevail. I think we all know that. And we just got to continue to support each other. And it's great to have people like you and Lauren to be able to do that with, and so many others that she's introduced me to, you've introduced me to as well, that I know I can call on at any time, because you keep saying it, this industry is about people, great people, more than it is just about us being colleagues across the country. And so from my seat, just people continue to be positive and support each other, challenge each other, hold each other accountable. But let's just make sure at the end of the day, we're still trying to have fun and thinking about ourselves as well as our families. And the most important thing being that we take care of ourselves.
Yep. Very well said, both of you. Thank you again. And this chaos of crossover season and multiple things and big ideas, big change that are going on for both of you. But it was a little text message and an email, and these two made time for our Cows community. So thank you both. Thank you, Will Reese, for the opportunity. Cows is a great event and a great resource for all of us. And thank you for letting us spend a little bit of time with you, and wish you all the best, and reach out if we can do anything for you, Cows community. I think us three here, we're always here, and we look forward to meeting you in person. So thank you both so much. Thank you, Will Reese. Thank you, Cows. This has been The Lobby, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to episode 4 of the Cows Report. It's been a privilege to share Tommy McClelland's leadership journey and dive into the state of athletics with Ryan Peck, Lauren Adee, and Haven Fields. This episode wraps up our podcast lineup for 2024, and I want to take a moment to thank all our incredible guests and listeners. The response to the Cows Report has been nothing short of amazing, and we're deeply grateful for the Cows community and beyond for your support as we continue to provide value, foster connections, and inspire growth in leaders in college athletics. A heartfelt thanks to my great friend Ryan Bradley for his unwavering dedication and contributions to this project. As the year comes to a close, we wish all our friends and listeners a Merry Christmas and joyful holiday season. In a time of unprecedented change in our industry, I hope this season brings you rest, reflection, and quality time with loved ones as we gear up to make 2025 our best year yet. Don't forget to subscribe to the Cows Report on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn and Instagram at the Cows Report, and on X, Twitter at AD Symposium for updates. For more information about Cows or to reach out, visit us at www.adsymposium.us. I'm Will Reese, and this has been the Cows Report. Until next time, stay connected and keep leading the way in college athletics.